Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be another concert review. I know I just put one up yesterday or 2 days ago of Graham Nash, who I saw in Charlottesville, Virginia. Well, the next day, Thursday, what was that, the 16th of April, I got to see Micky Dolenz of the Monkees up at the Barns at Wolf Trap. Now, if you've never been to Wolf Trap, I've never heard of it. It's an awesome place. I highly recommend it if you're ever in the Virginia, Maryland, DC area. It is a national park that's dedicated to the performing arts. It's the only one of its kind here in the States. Beautiful place. It has a couple different venues on the property. The Barns is the smaller venue. It's an indoor place, probably holds about 450 people. It does have a balcony, lower level, but then it's also attached to a large space for eating, for bar, for merch, that sort of thing. So really nice place. I've never been to this venue. I've been to the Filene Center, which is the larger amphitheater that's on the grounds that has open walls. If you remember, maybe from a couple years ago, I did a couple of reviews on the Avett Brothers. I saw them there for 2 nights. So this is my second time venturing up to Wolf Trap. And I really enjoyed it. Now, I bought this ticket about the same time that I bought Graham Nash. Micky Dolenz was celebrating 60 years of the Monkees, and I did get a season program there, and there's Micky there. That photo is probably about 10 or 11 years old, but he was essentially going to celebrate the Monkees. It was all Monkee songs. He went, for the most part, chronologically through their career. It was a great kind of pre-show setup. They had a screen rolling the whole time people were getting to their seats. It was playing old clips of Micky as a little boy and the Circus Boy show that he was in. It was showing, Monkees clips. They were playing, Monkees songs. There were some covers of Monkees songs that they were playing. Really well presented for, again, a small venue. A lot of times you don't have video capabilities in some of these venues that are so small. So it was really cool to have that playing in the background. Now, the band that he's playing with, pretty much the same band that was playing with the Monkees in their final iterations. You had his sister Coco Dolenz providing a lot of the background vocals. Lots of really good stuff from the band. They're just super tight. Wayne, the musical director, he's been with them for years. Just a fantastic guitarist. He played the introduction lick on Valerie, the Davy Jones song. It sounded so good. He would have been in the Wrecking Crew if he was born a few years earlier. But it was just a fantastic band. They play the notes perfectly. He's got a bassist, drummer, a couple of guitarists, keyboards. Obviously, he's got Coco on background vocals, and then you've got Micky, who is playing maracas and tambourines for most of the evening. But show started out great. The band came out before Micky. They play the Monkees theme song, which is fantastic. Then Micky comes out. They go into Last Train to Clarksville, the big Monkees breakthrough hit that really came out before the Monkees show did. Then they sang Papa Jean's Blues, the Michael Nesmith tune from the self-titled debut. What was great about this show is he made sure to honor Mike Nesmith, Davy Jones, and Peter Tork throughout the show by playing some lesser-known cuts by them, especially Peter, who, didn't really sing lead on that many Monkees tracks, and oftentimes they were a little more of like the goofier kind of tunes. But they did some, stuff to honor all of them. So singing Papa Jean's Blues, it was interesting to hear, and he had a lot of the other band members take leads on some of these other tracks. Alex Jules, the piano player, sang a great version of Look Out, Here Comes Tomorrow, the Davy Jones tune. But when they were singing it, they had the old album covers behind them and, again, clips from the show, as well as some lesser-known footage. I think some of it was footage that Micky has taken throughout the years. But went through the album, especially up until the album Head. And then after that, they kind of skipped ahead, jumped to the 80s with That Was Then, This Is Now, the hit that they had. um, kind of an MTV song as well. And then they jumped ahead from that. They skipped Just Us, the reunion album in the 90s, and they jumped to Good Times, did the song Me and Magdalena, which was a beautiful duet with Micky and Coco. Originally, it was Micky and Mike Nesmith. And I was fortunate enough to see the Mike and Micky show back in 2021 with my buddy Tommy from Tommy's Musical Adventures. We went to go see them in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm so happy I did because Nesmith would pass away about a month and a half later after that show. So that was one of the, I'd say, the lower points of the show, was just hearing some of those tunes and thinking, we're never going to hear them by those original voices ever again. Especially the Nez tunes for me. I mean, they did Nez tunes. They did Listen to the Band. They did Circle Sky. Again, Papa Jean's Blues. You Just May Be the One. And so hearing all of that was like, oh, it's cool to hear these songs, because even, just hearing them is great. But not hearing that Nez, Texas drawl to it was really kind of a wake up call of, I mentioned this with the Graham Nash review as well. These guys are not going to be around for very long, and it's our duty as fans to go see them and support them. And Mickey sounded great. His voice is great. Yeah, it was interesting to see him, because again, the last time I saw him was about almost 5 years ago, and he might have lost a little bit of power on the upper end of his voice, but he was still very, very good, especially when he came out and did Clarksville. His voice sounded fantastic on that. And again, he did the song Going Down, which is always a big fan favorite. It's almost like scat, if you know that song, what I'm talking about. He did his song Randy Scouse Get. He told stories pretty much after every song. A lot of them are stories that we already know as diehard Monkees fans. But hearing him talk about it and hearing him reference Mike and Peter and Davey in those stories was really charming to hear. And even with all the stories, he still was able to fit in a lot of stuff. And it was always funny because he would go through the songs again chronologically. So we started with the Monkees, went into more of the Monkees, Headquarters, Pisces, etc. If there was a big hit on the album, especially Daydream Believer and I'm a Believer, he would say, this was the big hit from this album, and then they would start the first line, and then he would cut them off, and he'd say, you have to wait for that. If we play that now, you're going to leave. And so that was kind of fun to acknowledge, like, oh, we know that those songs exist on these albums, but we also know that those are our bread and butter songs that we've got to save for an encore. So I thought that was kind of charming and cute. Again, he's Micky Dolenz, campy, but very, very charming, and I love it. And again, there were some deep cuts as well. I mentioned the song Look Out, Here Comes Tomorrow. He did Take a Giant Step, which is fantastic, from the first album. He did the song Words, which I was stunned to hear. That was one of his tributes to Peter Tork, because him and Peter sang that together on Pisces, but it sounded so good, kind of psychedelic. They did Tapioca Tundra, which is great. When I saw Mike and Micky, they did it as well. But yeah, Alex Jewell sang that again. He has such a good voice. I really liked hearing his stuff. Hearing the stuff from the song Head was fantastic. So they did songs up until Birds, the Bees, and the Monkees, and then they took about a 20-minute break, came back out, mentioned the movie Head, showed some clips. I remember the guy sitting next to me was talking, I could overhear him talking with his wife how much Head, the movie, didn't make any sense. And Mickey made a joke about, what is that movie even all about? Which, those of you or that have seen it and get it, then you get it. Essentially, it's about the manufacturization of the Monkees and kind of breaking that, kind of like killing off their TV selves, essentially. But hearing Porpoise Song and As We Go Along, those two songs back to back are just gorgeous. Coco did a great job of providing some of the higher harmonies on those songs. Circle Sky. So we got 3 songs from Head. We did get Coco come out and sing the Linda Ronstadt version of Different Drums. So when I saw Mike and Micky, they were doing these songs around the time that Micky put out his record, his fantastic record, Dolenz Sings Nesmith, on 7A Records, where he sang Michael Nesmith tunes. And so when Tommy and I saw them in 2021, he did the version that he did on that album with the arrangement. But then Micky came out, told the story about Mike writing the song Different Drum and how the Monkees producers didn't accept it as a Monkee song, even though it was written by a monkey. So he gave it to Linda Ronstadt and the Stone Ponies. So Coco sang it beautifully. It was great to hear that song. It's a great tune and kind of a nice little bridge because you don't have a lot of hits on Head afterward on the Monkees that the core fans would know. When I say the core fans, I mean the ones that want to hear Mary Mary and Daydream Believer, that kind of stuff. So to have different drum in there was like, okay, we've got another hit. Let's keep the crowd going. It was a very smart move. And then again, he went into the 3 songs from Head. Jumped ahead to That Was Then, This Is Now. Showed some clips of him and Peter in the 80s promoting that song. Did Me and Magdalena, which is my favorite Monkees song. So that was great to hear. A very touching moment. And then he closed the main show with Steppin' Stone, which he had saved. Come out for the encore. Hit up Listen to the Band, the Mike Nesmith tune from the Monkees Present. So we did have that album represented, which was good to have another Monkees album represented. So I think the only ones that weren't were Just Us, Changes, and then Instant Replay. So yeah, I think those are the 3 that weren't represented. Then he jumped into the song No Time, which is just a great kind of upbeat, like a Little Richard kind of tune. That was great. Then he did Daydream Believer and I'm a Believer and closed out the show, and everybody was happy. So it was a great time. The sound was great inside the small venue. I think it was a sold-out crowd. That was great. One of my main, one of my main beefs is that there wasn't enough merch. I got to the table. I was really wanting to get a shirt, but they only had 2 sizes available for the shirt, and they were both larger than the shirts that I wear. So I thought for a second about getting a shirt a size up, but then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. Pretty reasonably priced. I think they were $35. They did have some poster prints. They had tour programs, but the tour programs were $60. I don't need it for that. I don't need it that badly. And a lot of the prints were just signed Micky Dolenz prints. I have several Micky Dolenz signatures, so that was something, again, that I didn't need. I really wanted a shirt, and they only had 2 sizes, and they were larger than the ones that I wear. So that was one of the main beefs that I had. Funny enough, I ran into somebody that I knew from growing up. He was there with his wife. I hadn't seen him in probably 5 or 6 years, and so it was just fascinating that he was there at the same time, and I was sitting right behind him. So that was interesting to see. But yeah, fantastic show. I know I've talked to a couple of you all who have seen the show, and it's great. And I highly recommend going to see Micky while he's still performing so well. And the show is just a lot of fun. I will say one of the highlights was the performance of Your Auntie Griselda, the Peter Tork song. So that was a fantastic moment from Micky's drummer. So that does it for me, everybody. That was a long one. I'm sorry. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you've seen Micky Dolenz at all. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you in the comments. So that does it for me. Oh, I should also say I did get a set list from the sound guy sitting. I was kind of the row in front of him, and I went up to him and asked, and he kind of acted for a second like he didn't want to give it to me, but then he handed it to me and gave me a smile. So thank you so much for this. It's fantastic. You can see it's got all the notes on it as well. But happy to have that to add to the sound to the set list collection. So y'all be good. We will see you on the next one. Bye now.